You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and here with me, as always, is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. We've reached October.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Spooky season. I'm ready to go. I got my
of course
jack-o'-lantern shirt on. We had a great discussion about Halloween before the show, although if we said what you said about it, I don't know, we might lose some watchers, some listeners.
Listen, I'm always surprised that your jack-o'-lantern shirt doesn't have a Christmas hat on top of it. Yeah,
it's coming. I thought about it as
I'm pretty sure I saw the Christmas tree up in the corner of the other room.
As the girls and I were decorating today, putting fall stuff out, and we're like, might as well put the Halloween stuff out if we're doing that stuff. Get a few pumpkins and bats and skeletons out. I should put out a tree somewhere just to see Justin's reaction. You know who may already have their tree out is Miss Beck. I know, big Christmas fan. Big Christmas fan. So I'm waiting for the picture. Actually, I haven't seen it yet.
We have fully established that. Listen, if that's what brings joy to you, do it. I used to get angry and frustrated. I'd be like, it's not Thanksgiving yet. Anymore, I'm just like, hey, if that makes you happy, do it. Right?
That's where we're at. Huh?
Right, yeah. So, especially with something as
innocent.
Right, yes.
Who's it hurting?
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the tree will be up next week.
Yeah. It's a comfort thing, for many people decorating for holidays or whatnot. And then you said it's really innocent, but it makes people feel good, feel happy, and that gets that increases for me as the fall goes on, because I have a fall birthday. But needing some comfort because the way that our football fandoms have gone over the last few days has been a little rough.
Never a doubt. I think I had to send that to you 3 times this weekend.
Not because a few of them didn't win. A couple of them, or in your case, 3 of them won. All of your rooting interests won this weekend. Can't say the same thing for me. No Victory Monday for me tomorrow, unfortunately. But that's NFL. We're not here to talk about professional football. We're not here to talk about college either. And our Nittany Lions struggled mightily at the 11 a.m. local time kickoff.
Only for the first half.
First half was rough.
First half was not good.
Not good. And but then we'll rewind one more night and go back to Friday, where the Wilson Bulldogs, who we're here to talk about, struggled a bit with Governor Mifflin.
Yeah.
But in the end, did get the W. That is the most important thing and the only thing that matters in the long run.
Absolutely. Able to get the job done. Second week in a row where there's been a chance to kind of maybe, I want to say blow it open, because both those games were close games. Obviously they were 1-score games, but not so much in that regard as just it felt like we were on the verge of kind of taking a strong control of the game in the second half, but just couldn't quite get there, kind of 2 weeks in a row. But, that's the downside. The positive side is they did enough to win again. And, hey, that, like you mentioned, that's what counts. We talk about it before, riding those ups and downs, riding the momentum. They never let one play, kind of dictate another play. I saw, I think it was, defensive line coach Wolber, sent a tweet out, something like that, about how, mentioning certain players and how, hey, next play mentality, and made a huge game-winning play. Things like that just that's the kind of stuff that you need to build on, and continue to build on. And I know this isn't NFL, but to quote A.J. Brown, like, we don't need to be playing our best football right now. We need to be getting there, and we've got a month to get there, and you need to build each week. Hopefully each week starts, you can get a little bit more and a little bit more and a little closer to the team that you want to be, and then see where we're at the end of the season.
I think the Wilson defense only surrendered 80 yards in the second half. So it was quite the – it felt like they were always in dire need of a stop. And they got him in the second half.
Yeah.
And
they pitched a shutout in the second half.
Right, yeah, exactly. So
second week in a row.
The effort was there, and when they needed to get it done, they got it done.
No, it wasn't. They didn't do a shutout last week in the second half.
Was the fourth quarter?
Yes. You're right.
Yeah, because it was 21-6 at half.
Right.
Got it done when it mattered. Bend a bit, but never broke. Never gave up that one big play. And the game. Before we dive in, let's take care of our housekeeping stuff, because we kind of just dove right into the Mifflin recap, and that's why everyone's here. I do have some videos also to share, courtesy of SV Sports and Burke Sports Report, Paul Roberts. We'll get to that momentarily, but do want to thank our Season 9 sponsors here for the Bulldog Hour. My dad, Bill Mays, who did message me and said that what makes him happy is beating you at fantasy football.
Yeah, he was quick to bring that up today. When we were playing football, and I might knock him off.
We'll see.
I'm not confident at all.
Yeah, he needs Taylor Swift's boyfriend needs to score some points for him. Can we get a ratings boost just by mentioning her name too? Is that how that works?
It won't hurt.
Okay, well, I'll have to look into that. We might have to put something together. So Bill Mays and Mays Sandwich Shop and White Star Tours, presenting sponsors of Season 9 of the Bulldog Hour. Thank you very much. As well as Mike Drago, MikeDragoSports.com, the Hop family, Andy Andy still rough go of it with his college team of choice, falling to
my dad
Michigan.
My dad was
weekend.
telling me he's like somebody said that they think they could keep it close, and I was like, somebody is wrong.
Yeah,
I
don't think that's happening.
I'm like, that is not going to happen. They're going to get smoked by Michigan,
and
that's not a statement about Nebraska as much as it is a statement about Michigan. They're doing really well right now, but. Yeah, sorry, Andy.
Andy was back, as he always is, with his Saturday or Sunday kind of LL football recap.
Yes.
He talks about each team, and he talked about Wilson, saying, there's people are always sounding the alarms, and then Wilson wins 4 in a row, beating Cedar Crest and Mifflin in close, tight games, especially Mifflin was, rivalry game, which we talk about every year. Doesn't matter what the records are when rivals meet. And we saw that happen here. We also saw that happen in another LL matchup, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
The scoreboard was wacky this week.
You were keeping me posted at halftime, and I was just like, what is going on?
I kept sending one to you. I'm like, that's crazy. And then I'd see a different one. I'm like, that's even crazier.
Crazy too. Yeah, and also thanks to our 5 anonymous donors for sure. There's multiple ways you can support us here on the show. Sponsorships, advertising, in-kind donations, visiting the website bulldoghour.com, and Justin's favorite.
Yeah, like and share. Spread the word. Helps us know what you want more of.
Be sure to subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. It's not Bulldog Hour. It is under Wilson Bulldogs Football. That is the page that I've been putting Bulldog Hour on for, I believe, 8 of the last 9 years. I think the first year we were on the Joe Mays and J-Raff YouTube page, but it's been on the Wilson football page now for the last 8 years. So subscribe there. Also, if I ever do a live stream from the game or of an event or something, you can get that. And I also do have archival footage from the VHS tapes that I've converted to digital. I've uploaded some old game film to the YouTube page. I have basically all but every game for the entirety of the program's history.
That's pretty insane.
Done, but they're not all up on the YouTube page.
No,
a select bit
they're
are.
all insane. That's insane.
But one that's up there is the first ever game in Wilson football history in color from 1945. I posted that a few years ago, and I remember, and we talked about this on the show in the past, but Mr. Lippincott was the first person to throw a touchdown pass, first score in Wilson football history. And after I posted it, he stopped by the sandwich shop, and I talked to him, and I asked if he had seen it, and he had no idea what I was talking about. And I told him, oh, there's video of the first game, the game that you played in, the first ever game against the Reading JVs. He had no idea. That he didn't know. Really so cool, for his entire life, he did not know that existed. I believe we talked and that he did get to see it then. And he unfortunately passed away a year or so, year and a half maybe ago. But it was fun to talk to him about that, and that just came up recently with someone else I was talking about how ridiculous it is that we have that footage.
Yeah,
it's really cool, and it's up on the YouTube page for anyone to take a look at. All right, so we will be back again in 1 week's time for episode 12 of season 9 to talk about the Hempfield game and then get ready for the Penn Manor game. That'll be on Sunday, October 8th at 8:30. All right, Justin, here we go. We're
we're moving down that second
column. Farther down to that second column now. Rival game check on to Hempfield this week, Friday, October 6th, down at Landisville. Road Warriors, big game coming up after their upset of us last year at Gurski. Time to return the favor and take it to them on their home turf, and we will preview that game at the end of this show. But up first, back to Mifflin. So I do have a few highlights here. Again, this is courtesy of Paul Roberts and BurkeSportsReport.com. Let me pull up the first one. And they're going to loop, so you'll get to see it a few times. And Justin and I are just going to recap the Wilson victory over Governor Mifflin. So we talked about it a little bit. It wasn't a clean game. Mifflin drove down the field to start. A lot of that coming courtesy of a fake punt on fourth down that they converted to keep their drive alive, and they eventually did score. Wilson Bulldogs was able to answer almost immediately the second opportunity. John Winter, Max Jackson, big play down the middle, getting Wilson on the board to make things up. Mifflin would respond on the score again to get 14-7 in the second quarter by this time. They were just haven't been able to stop, not getting off on third and fourth down, staying on letting them run the ball.
19 and change to 3 and change.
So nearly 20 minutes.
Something like that. Yeah.
5 times as much. The Mustangs had the ball 5 times as long as Wilson did in the first half.
Which, if you were to tell me ahead of time, I wouldn't necessarily be alarmed by it, just because the styles are going to lend themselves like that. Okay, like that. That in and of itself is not alarming. Right? If you tell me it's that lopsided, but again, like you said, the second play, they had a long drive that they also converted the fake punt on. So that extended it even more. Well, then 2 plays, we go the length of the field and score. It happens, you find yourself in that spot. So all those things, like you said, led to that situation. But thankfully, we were able to get enough done to be even at half. Because it was an up and down half. But again, we mentioned it already on the show. We mentioned it before, but you don't ride too high, you don't ride too low. You just make it happen, right? And then
so
they from all accounts, reading the things and just listening after the game and all that stuff. No one panicked. They're like, okay, we're fine. Which is you want them to be in that spot. You want to be confident, and that is another thing with these close games and these 48-minute games that they're playing. Starting to build that confidence of we're gonna make enough plays to win. Hey, there's something to be said for that.
So I do apologize. Apparently, the audio from the video was super loud, and it's not coming through on our headphones. So if you didn't hear what we said when the first video was playing, I apologize for that. But Justin covered here on the second video. This is video of Hunsaker to Gruber, and this started the second half.
Right.
Went into halftime. 14-14.
14-14 and a half.
Wilson had scored near the end of the second quarter, right before halftime, on a Hunsaker scramble that he turned into a touchdown. It was about 30, 35 yards down the visiting sideline. And got the score to tied 14, went into halftime, came out, got the ball, went down the field. That was fourth down, was it not?
It was.
So fourth down touchdown pass from Hunsaker to Gruber gave Wilson the 21-14 lead, and that is how we would stand at the end of the game.
Right, because I sent to you at one point, I was like, man, the fourth down plays in this game have been huge. The fake punt that extended the drive and led to a touchdown. Their fourth down conversion that led to what I thought was a touchdown, but apparently was not, where the guy stepped out when he went to dive in. And then that fourth down play. Like, there were just some huge plays on fourth down. And not, like, every fourth down is huge because it's either going to be a first down. Well, it's going to be a first down for one of the teams, you know. So that is a huge thing to consider.
Right.
But, like, to magnify it even more, there were some huge fourth down plays in this game. So,
and thankfully, we ended up being on. I mean, scoring points on fourth down is a big deal. I don't believe that happened with Mifflin at all, but they got the fake punt conversion. Then they had the one you alluded to. There was like 4th and 13 or something like that. And it's just a wacky, wobbly throw.
Weird, yeah.
If it was, I think this was mentioned post-game by one of the coaches of the players, that if it's a traditional throw over, it's probably picked off. It might even be a pick six by Maddox.
Right.
But because of the way it fluttered and floated, it never came down on the proper trajectory. Right. And I believe it was Reese Hole who came down with the catch, and then he stepped out at the 3-yard line. They eventually scored. Pletz to Di Natale gave them the 14-7 lead in the second quarter. But just wacky stuff all night. Wilson did not force or recover any turnovers. There were a couple times that there were balls on the ground Wilson did not get after either. I couldn't ever tell, was it center quarterback exchange or was it quarterback trying to get it to the running back? I believe it was
usually quarterback to running back.
Okay.
The ones that are popping out in my head.
They put it on the ground at least 2 or 3 times, but always recovered or even continued plays after that had happened. Right. So just some wacky stuff. But you can see, and I'm going to move on from this as it's been up there a while, but Paul Roberts got video of the raising of the Gurski-Linn trophy now in Wilson's hands again, winning it for the second straight time and the 9th out of 12 times. The trophy debuted in 2012 before the season opener that year that Wilson won 21-0. Wilson would defend that first trophy game victory later that same season in the playoffs, again in actually the district semifinals against Mifflin, and Wilson would hold on to win that one 21-14 and would win in 2013, 2014 in an amazing game, 2015 and 2016 before the Mustangs finally got a hold of the Gurski-Linn trophy in 2017. Wilson would take it back in 18 and hold on to it in 19 before the Nick Singleton-led Governor Mifflin team would take hold of it in 2020 and 2021. And then we heard a lot about the seniors last year desperately wanting to win over Mifflin because they hadn't done it yet.
Had to laugh at one of your posts with a picture of the trophy and, you know, someone we know from Mifflin who commented, like, you know, you're just glad that you're able to root for Singleton on Saturdays now or something along those lines. Yeah. And I'm just like, yes, that is 100% it. We said
absolutely
it then.
Why.
We said it then, and I'll say it now that, yes, I am very glad for that.
So all in all, it was a perfect game. Absolutely not. The coaches and players would all tell us that, I'm sure. We did not talk to anyone after the game, but a win is a win. Things to clean up for sure. But we will finish things up here before we move on to Hempfield with some stats. Although Justin and I did get to take a picture for the first time. It never really came up, Justin, before. I guess the trophy was never really lingering around. Like, it was just kind of hanging out. So I was
it was just sitting on the field. Like,
so I was like, hey, why not take our picture with the trophy?
Right.
That should never leave West Lawn, and I hope it doesn't ever again. And happy to hold on to it.
I mean, I don't mind if we take it on a ride every other year, but like as long as it comes on the bus.
Well, yeah,
back
it
with
can
us,
come
like,
with us to Shillington as long as it doesn't stay there
Right,
overnight and for the next year. So, yeah, Wilson victory, 21-14. Defense got it done in the second half. A lot of turnovers for the Bulldogs. Turnovers,
back-to-back
penalties,
weeks.
special teams issues. Obviously, all those things need to be cleaned up if they want to make the playoffs. They have no margin for error.
One of the interesting things to me was our starting position off of their kickoffs was insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
Now some of that was aided by a penalty on one of them, but like our starting position was so good on every one of the kicks. It was just it kind of threw me off. Like
Right.
I didn't anticipate
Not used to that. No.
Right. Yeah, I haven't really seen that in a while. Usually with the bigger schools, you'll see guys. Now again, like last year, we saw teams directionally kicking and pooching it and everything to keep it away from Cam. Anything they could do. So but like that's not what this was. I don't think. But maybe they're not kicking it to Eddie. But it was interesting to me.
So, believe it or not, as funky as the game was, and if you take into account what you already said about time and possession, Wilson didn't punt in that game.
Yeah.
Only scored 3 touchdowns.
Right.
Still didn't have to punt. Now, 3 offensive turnovers will do that, as well as only having the ball for 4 minutes.
Well,
in the
and
first
a number
half.
of times we started with the ball at midfield, so we're almost already in the 4th down territory. Like, we're just going to go for it.
Very evenly matched game, and obviously a 1-score game generally leads to that. First downs, 12-11 favor Wilson. Net yards rushing, 165-162 favor Mifflin. Wilson had the edge by 52 yards in the passing department, 133-81. Total yards, Wilson bested Mifflin 295-246. Time of possession, Mifflin had it for 30 minutes and 37 seconds to Wilson's 17-23.
That's 3/4 of the game.
So, yeah, that's what, 2.5.
But see, that's crazy how even the other statistics are when time of
Right.
possession was that out of whack. Like, that's weird. Like, usually when you see that much time of possession, all of the, like, maybe one of them is out of line, and that's why the game was so even. But no, like, a lot of them were even statistically here, except for time of possession.
Third down conversions, Mifflin was 5 of 12. Wilson was 2 of 5. Fourth down, 2 of 5 for Mifflin, 1 of 3 for Wilson. Mifflin got in the red zone twice, scored both times. Wilson was never in the red zone. All their
That's
scores
crazy.
coming from outside the 20. Wilson did not get any sacks, but Tommy was sacked twice.
How many pass attempts did they have?
How many pass attempts did they have? I'll tell you right now. Let's pull up the individual stats. Total passing attempts, 5 of 10. 5 completions on 10
so
attempts.
10 attempps.
So 10
But that-
attempts.
right.
Honestly,
But one of those is a fake punt.
right. And
So-
Tommy didn't have all that many more.
No.
He was 6 of 11.
Right.
So
So-
one more.
Right.
So a lot of the battle was done on the ground, which is to be expected when you're playing
Right.
Mifflin, especially now they're back to the the midline, the veer, the option. We saw that going full force. Quarterback, fullback,
Yep.
outside, rinse and repeat. And,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. They definitely caught us on that fake punt on 4th down.
They executed it really
it was
well.
done
too.
really well, yeah.
We
Not sure what else to say about
right.
it. Other important stats and those from a Wilson perspective, Tommy was actually the leading rusher as well. He had 13 attempts. He netted 90. He actually went over 100 at 105, but because in high school sacks count against your net rushing, he lost 15, so he was at 90 yards rushing and a touchdown, the touchdown being 35 yards. Corell Akings was next with 7 carries for 46 yards. Passing, I mentioned Tommy was 6 of 11 for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Jackson Wagner hauled in 2 of Tommy's 6 completions for 53 yards and 1 touchdown. The touchdown being 46 yards. Austin Valukiewicz was next with 2 receptions for 34 yards. Defensively, have a game. Ryan McMillan, 8.5 total tackles, including half of one for loss. Cam Zolnier also 7.5 tackles, 2 for loss. He was very important in that defending against that Mifflin offense. And then Nick Fiorini was next, 6 tackles from his linebacker spot. Kurzweg, Hunsaker, Mike Glover, and Derek Reiniger also were credited with partial or full tackles for losses. So, Justin, it was a tough one to decide who our player of the game was. There was certainly a handful of guys that could have gotten it, but I feel like for the 6 games we've now seen this year, this was the toughest decision because there were a lot of people evenly. Like, I don't think anyone stood out miles above anyone else.
Right. No, I agree.
So it was a difficult decision, but in the end, you're gonna go probably with the guy leading the offense. So
right.
Tommy Hunsaker gets the player of the game once again from us here at the Bulldog Hour. 13 rushes, 90 yards, and a touchdown. 6 of 11 passing for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air against Mifflin. So Tommy had a hand in all of Wilson's points. So he gets our player of the game. Again, he continues his pace this season of outdoing himself from a year ago. He is now up to 1,254 yards and 13 touchdowns through 6 games, and that is more than he had all of last season combined in 11 games.
Right.
So have a game and have a year so far, Tommy. At least 4 games left, knock on fake wood,
right.
and everyone's healthy and moving along, and that there's more than 4 games to go in the 2023 season for the Wilson Bulldogs and Tommy Hunsaker. And we'll see what Hempfield brings to the table, if another player will step up and get the nod next week against the Hempfield Black Knights. But before we talk about them, anything else to say about Mifflin?
No, I think, if we take away a couple of the things, one, we've been able to win some tough full games the last couple of weeks, while it may not have gone how we would have liked it to go on in every aspect of the game. We were able to make it come out on the right side of it, right? And those can provide learning experiences too. Anytime you beat Mifflin, your rival, it's a good game. So we'll take it. And again, need to get better. Continue to get better. Clean up the things that are still kind of like hanging out there for areas of improvement. Work on it and be ready. Last year, Hempfield was ready. They came in, and that was a heck of a game. That was a heck of a game. I hope we can bring the energy to Landisville on Friday night and kind of put on, at least from the Hempfield side of things, or from the Wilson side of things, put on a good effort on Friday night, because I think we've seen improvements with the team in certain areas. I still feel like we're at a spot where, man, like if we can get it all clicking, this team could really start to get rolling, and I'm excited to see that. I think it's going to happen. It's just kind of like a matter of when. Like we said, there's a lot of things. In some ways, you're like, yeah, I say it. I'm guilty of it. Yeah, we've got a month to figure it out. But, like, man, that goes quick.
It goes real fast.
It goes real quick. So, yeah, let's start, cranking it up and get rolling here. Because Hempfield's going to be ready. They got that taste of that win last year, and they know, they really enjoyed that. And it was well earned. Like, they deserved it. They were a heck of a team last year.
Yeah.
But like I hope our guys go in and maybe have that chip on their shoulder. I know it's different teams and everything like that, but hey, let's go get our win in their stadium.
Yeah, Hempfield was riding high last fall and all off season leading up to the start of this year, but they had won their first share of a LL Section 1 title since I think it was like 2005. And their first outright section title since 1994. We talk about all the time, George Eager doing a great job down there. That was not something, it was good for the program, for the league. The time.
Sleeping giant, and we were very happy for George.
Yes.
At the same time, we're like, oh, man.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
And coming into this year, everyone's like, well, Wilson Township and Hempfield, the three of them will be in a race. But through 6 weeks, the only team that's looked like a bona fide number one is the Blue Streaks, who we haven't seen yet. We get them in week 10 at home. It'll be at Gurski, but that's a few weeks away. Before that, we do get to tangle with Hempfield. Not exactly the Black Knights team that people expected to be trotting out on the field, though.
No, things haven't gone their way so far this year. I'm okay with that if that could last at least one more week.
Right, yeah. Once we're done with them, it doesn't really matter to us what happens.
Right.
Although, honestly, an upset over Exeter would do wonderful things for
power
rating
Right,
reasons.
that one would be huge, but the rest of them in the league, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't make much of a difference.
Yeah, they've had a tougher go of it this year.
Yeah, and no more of a difficult time or tougher time than this past Friday when one of the surprising scores that you sent to me at halftime was Hempfield in Millersville to play Penn Manor. And was it 13-13 at half?
I think it was tied at half, yeah.
Tied at halftime, 13-13 or thereabouts. And then you sent to me late Friday night the final.
I'm like, Penn Manor won.
The Penn Manor Comets upset Hempfield 23-19.
Is it Coach Brubaker?
Coach John Brubaker
that's a huge
is
win
leading
for
the
him.
way.
I think they've won 2 in a row now, right?
They have, and they actually started the season 0-4 and hadn't scored a point until the end of the Cedar Crest game, which was in week 4. They were shut out by Conestoga Valley in week 1, 27-0. They were shut out by Lampeter Strasburg in week 2, 24-0. They then got blanked by Solanco in game 3, 33-0. Then they got on the board against Cedar Crest in game 4, the week before we went to South Lebanon to take on the Falcons. Penn Manor lost that game 42-13 before coming down to our neck of the woods and playing at Albright against Reading High for their 5th game. Penn Manor won that game in overtime, 28-27.
Right.
So they get on the they get in win column. They put up some more points. They got things moving. But now you got Hempfield again. Struggled a bit early, but still seen as a contender in Section 1. They still would have to play Wilson and Cedar Crest and Township. Well, Hempfield played Township, got beat up pretty good. Then they get to go to Penn Manor. And you think that's a Hempfield win, and then they'll be ready to go for the Wilson game. And Penn Manor wasn't having it. Penn Manor was able to get the win 23-19 Friday night, which drops Hempfield to 2-4. And barring a miracle outside of the district playoffs, they would have to win out, and their next 3 weeks are Wilson, Exeter, Cedar Crest before finishing with Reading.
That's a tough go of it.
So they're in a tough spot right now, Coach Eager's team. Now, I know they did not have, USC commit David Polly the first 4 weeks. Right. This past week, or past 2 weeks, playing, I think, defense only.
Right.
So not fully healthy, fully ready to go, prepared to play both ways. I don't know what his status will be for our game Friday. Right. But obviously, when he's in there, he's a difference maker. But Hempfield struggling mightily out of the gate, sitting at 2-4, losing 2 in a row. They beat McCaskey 41-20 to get win 2. They beat Dallastown week 1, 16-14. They lost a close game to York William Penn, 28-25.
I think Dallastown was in a close one with Central York this week.
Oh, were they?
I think they only, I think so.
23-13.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was real close, even late. But, yeah, so, it some wacky scores all over the place. But that Penn Manor one definitely draws your attention. But, hey, you never know, right? You never know in high school football, or college football, or NFL football. But in high school football, man, you can see some wacky stuff, and that's why Wilson needs to be ready to go on Friday. You know that they're going to regroup. They're going to try and show that last Friday was not their, not the way they intend to let things just happen the rest of the season. But so I would expect Hempfield's best this week.
Right.
I think they're going to be up for the game. They're going to be pumped up. They're at home. You're at that time of year. Who knows? It might be homecoming. That you never. You know what I mean? Just like that time of year, early October.
Yeah.
Like they were away last week, so you never know. But just man, yeah. Although an extended halftime might give them time to actually walk over to the locker room.
Yeah,
back,
right, exactly.
So
to answer the comments on the chat, we ran through like the Penn Manor stuff and skipped over Hempfield. I might have mentioned it, but I'll go through it again. Hempfield is currently 2-4. They won week 1, 16-14 against Dallastown. That was at home. They went to York William Penn, lost a close one, 25-28. They went to Central York, got shut out 39-0. Went to Lancaster to play McCaskey, got win number 2, 41-20. Then hosted Manheim Township in Landisville, but lost that one 48-7. Then went to Millersville to take on Penn Manor this past week and lost 19-23. So their record is at 2-4 after 6 games. Also, David Polly is committed to the University of Southern California. And that was a needed clarification. I know when I say USC, I'm always thinking of the Trojans.
me too. Me too.
I always and I know that that's just me personally. And I know a bunch of people call the University of South Carolina USC.
Right.
When I see it abbreviated, I always see SCAR.
Yes.
Which I kind of think is an awesome abbreviation for them. No, I don't think you would say that in conversation, though.
Right.
But yes, USC, David Polly is Southern California. That is where he will be playing following his graduation from Hempfield. So let's take a look at the Black Knights. Jackson Landis, returning starter at quarterback. He's completed 88 passes for just over 1,000 yards, 1,009, 9 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He's, by and large, their go-to guy. It looks like their big-time wide receiver, Micah Gates, has attempted 1 pass, I'm sure, on a trick play, and a converted quarterback or backup guy, Derek Catch, has played sparingly at the position. It is Jackson Landis, by and large, and he was the guy on the field last year that knows what it's like to beat Wilson. Rushing, it's Elijah Walls. This season, 68 rushes, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Landis can also do it with his legs. He's got 53 rushes, 182 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. Receiving, numbers-wise, the receptions lead is Micah Gates, and he was the one that burned us last year at Gurski. He's got 29 catches, 332 yards, and 4 touchdowns, but Cam Argison right there with him, 26 catches, a few more yards, 354, and the same amount of touchdowns.
29 catches. They have 2 guys.
They have 2 guys with over 25 catches.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's going to one of those 2 guys. The remaining guys essentially total what each of them have caught.
Right.
Charles has 9, Acevedo has 6, Krauser has 2, Abrams has 9. And only 2 receiving touchdowns have been caught by someone other than Margison and Gates. So those are the big players to know offensively. Landis, Walls, Margison, and Gates. So let's see where we got. They have been penalized 35 times, which is a decent amount. That's over 5 a game.
Yeah.
So that's something. It's not really something Wilson can take advantage of, but we hope the trend continues.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
That would be nice. They have allowed over 1,000 rushing yards and over 1,000 passing yards, and also have put the ball on the ground 6 times.
It'd be interesting to see how that trend goes, though. Now, if they have
Polly back.
Polly back, yeah.
For all intents and purposes, at least, that's what we think is going to happen. Right. So Gates, Landis, Polly, offensive lineman and defensive lineman Mike Schaefer, another big name to know, as well as Quentin Sneed. He's the anchor on the offensive line playing center. They did lose a decent amount in graduation from last season, but having your quarterback back, generally people expect big things.
And some of your weapons.
When you have your number 1 receiver back and your number 1 offensive defensive 2A, Was he a 5-star or
I think he became a 5-star.
5-star defensive lineman committed to one of the most, prestigious college football programs of the last 25 years. People are going to expect big things. They haven't been able to deliver yet, 2-4, but they can definitely still make the playoffs if they win out and wreck a few other teams' season, including Wilson's this Friday.
Right. Yeah. And that's why you can't let that Penn Manor score fool you. Honestly, it means nothing to us. It means nothing.
Right. It matters for playoffs.
Right.
And
people may be like,
ratings,
"Oh, well, does that right?" But even there, Penn Manor got the win. So Penn Manor got the win, and so that makes Penn Manor's score a little bit better. But it's going to be interesting. If the last few weeks tell us anything, be prepared for a tough game. Hopefully, like I said, if we clean up some of those things and can get rolling, it could be really exciting. We'll be able to see what's going to happen. But I still think our best effort or our most complete game is still out there. And
right,
I'd love to see that. Not saying I want to peak the first weekend in October, but just be able to get that and build off of that as we move forward. So we'll see, but expect Hempfield's best shot because they got that taste last year, and you never know after that happens. That confidence can go a long way. Just like I was saying, the confidence for our guys in knowing that they can come through even when things aren't going their way in some of these close games. That could be huge as we go on and get into some close games down the stretch. Our guys, understanding that it's all about the next play, whereas maybe another team who hasn't had those situations, maybe they get caught up in the moment a little bit more. But we mentioned some of the key guys for Hempfield. They know what it's like to beat Wilson, and not too many teams know what that's like. So hopefully we can go in there and handle our business, and it won't really matter.
Which I'm going to put you on the spot,
Okay.
Which I know you love.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
What do you think has been Wilson's best game this year?
I think, this is tough. So I'm going to talk through my reasoning.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my mind, I feel like defensively, I think Cedar Crest was our best game.
Okay.
I think offensively, I'm going to say Central Dauphin was our best game.
Okay.
I think for me right now, I think the situation we found ourselves in the second half the last 2 weeks with some turnovers makes it hard for me to say a complete game, because I feel like we had the chance to kind of put both those teams away, or again put some distance between us so it's not a one-score game, and us panicking down the stretch. Despite my never a doubt texts.
Never a doubt. Right.
All the doubts.
There was so much doubt.
Right. But I think Central Dauphin. I think I might pick Central Dauphin. As crazy as that may seem.
Right, because it's a loss.
It was a loss.
A 1-point overtime loss, but still a loss. But I don't think I disagree with you.
Right. I think we were so close to beating them, and I think they're better than any of the teams that we've beat so far.
So there's 3 phases, and then if you want to throw in 4, you can throw lump coaching in there if you want to go everything. I think we didn't win enough points-wise on the field, but I feel like we won 2 or 3 of the phases against Central Dauphin.
Right.
Whereas I know we didn't win defensively there. We weren't able to get a stop, got pushed around a bit, but I think offensively, special teams, coaching, I think that I feel like that was the closest we were to having a full game. And if you give defensive execution against Cedar Crest, or most of the time against Mifflin, I feel like you're getting... So, all that said, and you've already mentioned it, they haven't put a full game together.
Right.
It's hard to judge yourself against Reading. But even then, there were things that were like, why? What are we doing?
And the thing is,
it
sounds crazy, but I'm like, man, if... even if it's just one of the turnovers at Cedar Crest, and one of those is a punt and one of those is a score, well, then I'd probably pick the Cedar Crest game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a chance for the Cedar Crest game for sure to be it.
Honestly, I don't think we had 3 in the second half at Mifflin. I bet there were 2, and then a stop on 4th down, I believe. I think we got stopped on 4th down.
Wait, are you talking about turnovers?
Turnovers in the second half.
It was 200. Oh, in the second half.
Yeah, second half.
Okay. There was the fumble for sure in the second half.
Right, and another interception, I thought.
Was that in the second half?
I thought so.
The second one? Okay.
And then stop on 4th down. So, like, I kind of view that. I know it's different, but I kind of view that as another turnover because it's in a similar way, but not exactly the same. But I'm like, okay, but again, if there's one of those, because, in a perfect world, we sit here, like, eliminate all turnovers. Yeah, well, that's easy when I don't have somebody trying to punch the ball out. It's hard to do. But, like, if one of those is a score, one of those is a punt, and one of those is still a turnover, again, the end of that game is just very different. You know what I mean? So, like, I struggle with that part of it. And those are things in my mind that we can control. And while that's frustrating, it also is a good thing because those are things that we can, and I'm confident will clean up. You know what I mean? Like, there are some things where it's like, I don't know what we do. Like,
right.
When we talk about this, like, kind of,
if you can't throw the ball,
kind of like the games against Roman Catholic. Like, I feel bad, but like when we go through that, there aren't as many what ifs for me about that game as there are about, like a game like Central Dauphin. Central Dauphin, it was 1 point. So I look at that, I'm like, we are one play away from that decidedly being our best game, right? Like, but it didn't turn out that way. But like, okay,
yeah, I think you're looking at like I could hear Central Dauphin or Cedar Crest as being the best team performance, but there hasn't been a complete, mistake-free, complete game from this team yet after 6 weeks. And the ever optimist that I am just means that that's going to happen in the final 4 weeks. They're going to put it together all at one time, and we're going to see a great vintage Wilson victory in a game. Is it this Friday at Hempfield? That would be fantastic.
It was only 2 weeks. 2 years ago that we were sitting at 2-3.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting at 2-3, and did we go to Hempfield? Was that? I don't know if the order was different. Did we go to Hempfield and have that? But you remember, like we were down in that game, or at least it was tied.
It was tied later,
and we went on that drive that was just Jaden and Brad running the ball out,
which was most of the second half of the season,
right? But like that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like, oh man, we're reaching. That team found itself in October. You know what I mean? That team found itself in October. There's no reason why this team, who I feel like is at the midway, well, just over the midway point, is, I feel, much further ahead than that team is in some regards. And so, like, I feel like, I feel like they could really get it going.
So Wilson was 2-3 after losing to Manheim Central in a close game.
Yes.
A game we could have won. And then went to Millersville.
That's when
I wasn't you were unable to attend. But that was when everyone was like, "Oh, is Wilson's in trouble, right?" Because Penn Manor, I think, was looking decent.
Yeah, they might have been like 4-1 or something like that.
Or something like that. Yeah, you're right. They looked good in the non-league games. They had only lost maybe a game, and people wondered. And then Wilson beat them 40-6, and it wasn't even that close. Then you get a win against McCaskey. You roll. You're now 4-3. You're on the right side in the win column, and that's when they got together. They beat Cedar Crest then 49-24, and then go to Hempfield that was all the way down in game 9.
Wow.
So Wilson was 5-3 going to Landisville the last time we were there, and it was a nail biter. It was a tough one. Hempfield tied the game 21-21, and Wilson got the ball back and drove down the field, and Jaden Jones scored with 32 seconds left. And if we remember, Hempfield got the ball back and got close to midfield and threw up a last chance Hail Mary to the end zone.
I believe that Edison helped bat down as a sophomore. He was playing at safety at that time, I believe. He might have thrown it out the back of the end zone, but like
I believe it was overthrown in
right.
the end.
But it wasn't like overthrown where it's like hitting like the cameras or anything. Like it's close. But yeah, wow. I didn't realize that was week 9. That's wild.
Yeah, so that got Wilson to 6-3, and then that
township game is the one that
soaked.
That's the game. It was raining so hard the back of the booth was getting wet.
Yeah, Wilson on senior night beat Manheim Township 21-14. That was an interesting game all around.
Yeah,
and Wilson got the job done and actually ended up giving Wilson the title.
Yeah.
So after the season started 2-3 with losses to Mifflin, Exeter, and Manheim Central, they just ran the table in the league, got to 7-3, and then put it together in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
Had to be road warriors.
Right.
Go to York William Penn, beat them.
With Jaheim White.
Who's at West Virginia, right?
Yep.
Go to Central York with a quarterback that's now seeing action at Penn State.
5 weeks in a row.
Beating Bro Brule at 14-11, and what a crazy game that was. And all of a sudden you went from 2-3 to 9-3 and playing for a district championship.
Right.
That obviously didn't go the way anyone wanted at Harrisburg, but we're in the game, on the cusp, against a team that went to the state championship.
Yeah.
So
for a team that found itself in October.
Right.
So I'm saying, like, to quote our boy Andy, right? Like, there may be people sounding the alarm, like, oh, but hey, we're winning games we need to win right now, and yeah, are there things that we can improve on? Absolutely. But guess what? If you think there aren't things to improve on in October, that's fine. You handle that for your team. But like, I want my team, no matter how they're doing, I want them to be continuing to get better through October, and I think that's where we're at. And I'm confident they're going to, and I'm excited to kind of see where we are over the next month or two.
This team can still check a majority of the boxes for the accomplishments they wanted to have entering the season.
We always talk about that too. If things don't happen, I'm like, undefeated season is off the board.
It's
right?
also only happened like 12 times in Wilson's history.
However, if we look at it, and again, this is not me asking, but like you look at it, I know beating Mifflin is always one of those goals, right?
Mission
and guess
accomplished.
What? Check. Winning the section,
still on the table.
Right. We're not favored, but it's not off. It's in our control. You win your games, it happens. Win a district title, like all of those things are.
I pulled that out. It is 12 times.
Of course you did. But you know what I mean? Like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Beat Mifflin, win the section, win a district title. Like those are the top three.
Right.
Obviously, the state championship's always out there too.
Right.
But entering the season, those are the three big ones.
Yep.
You want to beat your rival, you want to win your section, your league, and you want to at least play for the district title. That's what those are the basic goals. And all of those are still on the table. One of them's done. Mifflin beat.
Right.
It's over. They won't be in our memories or our minds again for a year.
And in order to meet our second goal, we need to win this week at Hempfield.
Right. And that's where it all starts.
Handle your business.
That's what matters.
Don't try and do too much. Like, just do your job and things will work out. I'm confident. Like I said, part of the confidence comes from seeing the strides we've made in some of the areas since the Roman Catholic game. Seeing guys step up.
Getting healthy, getting people.
Jackson's had some big catches. Eddie's had some big catches. Austin had some. It's been different guys at different times. Maddox has had some big catches. Like, just it. I'm excited. I think they're doing the things we need them to do. We just need to continue to keep doing them, and we'll end up at a good spot.
Absolutely. So, a lot of football left to be played. 4 games to go. Hopefully more. And the only way to ensure that is to keep winning on Friday nights. Wilson heading to Landisville this Friday to take on the Hempfield Black Knights in an LL Section 1 game. A little bit of a revenge on the minds of the Bulldogs after last year's heartbreaker to Hempfield, lost in the final minute, the final seconds. And I'm sure that'll come up often this week as the team preps and at the in the locker room before the game, which I will not be a part of because, as you alluded to already, where the visitors at Hempfield have to go is outlandish, as nowhere close to the facility. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But Wilson's won 4 in a row, sits at 4-2, controls their destiny in terms of the section championship and making the District 3 6A playoffs. One more victory gets Wilson to 5, which means that the non-losing season streak will continue. 2 more victories gets Wilson to 6 wins, and that ensures that the winning season streak continues. And I know that's always at the forefront of many people's minds as well. So, yeah, a lot happening, Justin. I can't believe it's October 1st and we're already talking about playoffs. Playoffs. I got my power ratings file ready to go. I tabulated it through week 4. I did not update it for
I was going to say,
weeks
however,
5 or 6. Now I'm 2 weeks behind.
But we talk about every time how difficult it is with the scores. And like this,
I'm interested to see the predictions I sent to you following week 4, with only 4 games played of 10, how close that is to the final. How close did I get with my prognostications?
Dude,
I know I'm already off because I had State College losing to Central Dauphin.
I know we talk about this, but like, it would freak people out if they knew how close you get sometimes to these like early predictions.
Well, I'm the one in 2019 that was banging the drum for Wilson to be the number 1 seed despite us losing to Manheim
That's
Township.
what drew everyone's attention. Like when you went out there and were like, look, it's going to happen. And people are like, no, it can't happen.
It can happen.
And you're like,
I'm like, yeah, do you know how to math? Like, it's not like, honestly, it's not a difficult thing. Like, once you type everything in and set it up.
People wanted to argue about it. And you're like, look, I didn't make the math.
I'm not telling you this is what should happen. I'm telling you this is what will happen because it's math.
Right.
Math is math. You can't change math. Math is correct. This formula is right. Wilson will be the number 1 seed. And guess what happened? Wilson was the number 1 seed.
Oh.
I know it made Manheim Township mad, but I don't care about that. So we'll see what happens. In a few weeks, we will start talking more about power ratings, but it's still too early. Maybe, honestly, probably after week 8 is when it starts to come into play. So I think Wilson's got to play Hempfield and Penn Manor before that's something I'm really willing to start talking about. You know, it's a lot of guesswork right now because when I'm doing predictions with the ratings, I'm literally predicting the outcomes of, my gosh, I have like 50 teams in there. Each of them had to play at the time 6 more games, 300 games, give or take, because I know some of them are the same game for 2 different opponents within the same, section or whatever. But over 200 games I was predicting. If I got 55% of that right, I would probably feel good about myself. I'm getting more than that right in the Fearless Friday football forecast.
Yes, you are.
Sitting at number 1 in MikeDragosports.com pool.
You hit your double down this week.
I hit my double down. Of course, I was double down on Wilson against Mifflin. I know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
Also leading our NFL pool the top 900 in the world right now.
You're doing really
I'm
well.
doing really well. Everything else
I'm
fell
ready
apart.
for that. I'm ready for the regression to the mean on that one.
No. This is an upward trajectory to the moon. That's where we're going. All right, so congratulations, Bulldogs, on a rivalry win versus Mifflin. Good luck this week against Hempfield. Obviously, Justin and I will be there, and we will have a show next week to recap, hopefully, a win against the Black Knights. And we will look forward to the game against Penn Manor, which will be at home at Gurski on Friday the 13th. Spooky season, Justin.
Yeah.
Is that the Pink Out game?
It is.
All right.
It's homecoming.
Homecoming, probably Athletic Hall of Fame, and Pink Out.
Wow.
All at the next home game against Penn Manor on Friday, October 13th. You heard it here, so get ready. But we'll be back in 1 week's time to talk about the Hempfield game.
Yeah.
On episode 12 of season 9.
Hopefully some pizza reviews too.
That's right. Yes, we got our pizza spot all lined up. Post win pizza. I'm ready for it.
They're always cleaning up when we go.
They're probably so mad at us. They're still open though.
They are
still open.
And unlike some other places, do not turn off the lights.
Do not make us eat outside on the hood of a car.
With the parking lot lights turned off.
Adventures and post to Wilson football game, the antics that happen. All right. Anything else, Justin?
No, that's it.
All right. That's it for me as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Always appreciate you all tuning in. I don't know who this is, but they just said math is math. I hope Jamie is listening.
It's probably my mom.
Well, I'm just getting Facebook user. I don't know why it's showing me that. That has to be your mom, because talking about your uncle Greg playing on the first undefeated team, fall of '67. That is correct. That was the first undefeated team in the fall of '67. Yep. We honored them at the game a few years ago.
And
the Tradition Club.
Coach Haas still asks me about my uncle nearly every time. They graduated together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. All right. So that's it then. We will see you in a week. For Justin, I'm Joe Mays. It's your dad, not your mom.
There we go.
Sorry, just his Facebook user, Mr. Raffoff. It's never done that before.
I could have. I figured that from the one about my uncle, but I did not know that from the one.
Yeah,
that was there.
All right. Well, for Justin and the Wilson football program, I'm Joe Mays. Until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.